many memories we've shared together, not only here in this room and on the stage, but in Washington. And it was great to see my former colleague Bob Etheridge today, and I know he remembers those days when we couldn't quite talk too much about what was getting ready to happen because we had to put those coalitions together on both sides of the aisle and make it work. And when we did, what a wonderful, wonderful success that was and has been. It's a real pleasure to be back here with you today and to be able to share some time with you this morning. Having gotten in from Washington late last night, and we'll be going to some other events today. But I want to say thank you for your support, for your friendship, for the opportunity to work with so many of you, especially those from the 7th District. I know that many of the farmers that are here remember the day I first announced for Congress back in September of 1995 for the 96 race, that the advisory committee, out of all the ones we have, and we have them on military and business and education and family and senior citizens, but the one advisory committee we had stand with us that day of the announcement was our Agriculture Advisory Committee. And I want to thank Jimmy Pape, who is the Chairman Emeritus of our 7th District Advisory Committee, and Dan Ward, who's our current Chairman, and all those others who served on our Agriculture Advisory Committee that helped me as we cobbled together the language we knew would ultimately need to be put in tobacco buyout legislation. Join me in thanking them and you all for all your help. Thank you for your help. And also, of course, who doesn't know Billy Barker, who's been with me all 18 years, my field representative, worked so hard on agriculture, and Caitlin Helms-Wolf, who recently got married, who works in legislation and has done the nitty-gritty detail work up in Washington on the Farm Bill. I'm thrilled that Billy and Caitlin could be with me today, and hope you'll get to speak with them as well if you haven't already. You know, tobacco has been a staple of North Carolina's economy since colonial times. And a lot of folks in North Carolina don't realize, with all the great folks that are moving in, that see how beautiful our state is from the mountains to the coast, and are excited to retire here or to come bring new industry or jobs here, don't realize that agriculture is still the #1 industry in North Carolina and has been since colonial times. Nearly 1 out of every 5 North Carolinians are employed in agriculture or agri-related business. And in addition to the facts you have before you about agriculture, tobacco itself, we know North Carolina retains the rank, clearly, of being #1 in tobacco production, $7 billion industry in tobacco alone, employing over 250,000 individuals in our state. With this year being the 10th anniversary of the original Jenkins-McIntyre legislation that came out of our Specialty Crop Subcommittee, I was working with my colleague who was chairman from Tennessee, Mr. Jenkins, and I was the ranking member. We worked together on that, and through that language that eventually became part of the language which ultimately was attached to the American Jobs Creation Act as the tobacco buyout, we had a vehicle by which we finally got it done. And as we celebrate a decade now, we're thrilled at what that has meant for us here in North Carolina and for you. This program has had about a $4 billion impact on our state while operating at zero cost to the American taxpayer. Now, where do you get a deal like that these days in Washington? Many of you know that late last year, the administration announced that the final year of the tobacco transition payments were going to be sequestered, and we were going to have a big problem. In fact, there were some announcements that were issued by some agencies in that regard. Well, that's all it took to get us fired up and to make sure that that didn't happen. And I can tell you, as co-author of the tobacco buyout, I knew that that was unacceptable. You knew it was. Billy was hearing it from the farmers, and believe you me, Caitlin was on the phone continually getting phone calls about it. And then she got back on the phone with USDA, and we called and we worked, and finally we ultimately had a resolution with the Secretary of Agriculture himself and with his Chief of Staff. We knew that our government had made a commitment for these 10 years, and it was a contract. And it wasn't a contract in the future to be treated like all these other government contracts that are now subject to sequester, but rather it was a contract that had already occurred 10 years ago. And it was being done with the tobacco companies and the other folks that have been involved that should be honored by the government as a private contract. And so when we looked at this and when we looked at the financial institutions, and I met with some of our farm credit groups and banking institutions that were counting on their payments and their reimbursement too, we knew we had to get something and get it done quickly. And I was honored to lead that fight among our congressional delegation, not only here in North Carolina, but throughout the U.S. Congress. We had 36 fellow members of Congress from 9 different states who joined us from both parties in urging the administration to reverse this decision. And I still remember the personal phone call when Caitlin connected me with my chief of staff down here in North Carolina. We got on the phone with the Secretary of Agriculture's office and finally got the news that it had they had listened. It was delayed and delayed from Thanksgiving to Christmas, and then it was right when we were getting ready to go back into session the first full week in January that we were able to make sure that these payments would occur. Approximately 95% of the money would be paid by next week, which is February 15th. That was the commitment made, and the remaining 5% to be paid in early October, so that by the end of this year, all of those payments would have been made whole. So I'm thrilled that we are going to see this last year the tobacco buyout be honored, and that we remove the questions that were occurring and the pushback that we were getting from several different sectors. But we've been successful in that. I'm also pleased to tell you that today, after a few of you may have seen me come down a couple of weeks ago to NC State on Air Force One, which was quite a trip, to come down here and have a big announcement for NC State and for the University of North Carolina system, and for what that would mean for economic innovation and energy production in North Carolina, what it would mean for jobs in our economy. A great nonpartisan event for our state that the governor participated in, and I was able to participate in. And of course, the president was here, and we had leaders of our university system. Many from NC State, of course, were here since we were on the campus. Well, today I was invited to be going up to Michigan State, where the Farm Bill will be signed into law by the president at 1 o'clock today. And instead of going to Michigan State, I decided to come be with you at NC State and to celebrate this with you today. This is your victory. So I'm thrilled to be with you today, and I'll be meeting with some other farmers and farm groups today as well to celebrate this day with you. And how providential is that we can be together on the day that the Farm Bill is being signed, which is scheduled to be signed about 1 o'clock today. I can tell you, as North Carolina's most senior member of the House Ag Committee, and this time I was the only person on the conference committee for North Carolina from either party between the House and the Senate. It was quite an ordeal to get that Farm Bill done. But what we have is a strong, reform-minded bill that had bipartisan support. It will grow our economy and create jobs. That's the number one issue always. That's what it was when we were down here at NC State a couple of weeks ago at that event I was describing. That's what it is in the Farm Bill, and that's what we're always about. It'll help reduce our deficit, and it'll save taxpayers $16 billion. So the next time somebody complains about some kind of farm program, why are farmers or these agricultural programs getting money, you say, do you realize that Farm Bill just saved you $16 billion? And you can say it with a straight and direct face, because we did. We were a committee that worked together on a bipartisan way to say, look, we would rather figure out a way to keep this economically done right and save money than to get the chopping block happen to us by some other group in Congress that doesn't have agriculture at heart or at the best interest. This bill has several provisions. I know that I was asked to bring an update on that. I won't go through every detail, or we would be here another couple hours or more. But just let me touch on the highlights that some of you have asked about. One is reforming the farm safety net, strengthening crop insurance, and offering producers a choice in commodity programs. Farmers being able to select between the price loss coverage, which addresses deep multiple-year price declines, or agricultural risk coverage, which mitigates revenue losses. These important risk management tools will help farmers to make sure that you have the help when you need it. Also, producers can choose to purchase a supplemental coverage option in addition to crop insurance to address a portion of losses not covered by traditional crop insurance policies. Then the stacks for our cotton farmers, the stacked income protection plan will operate similar to the regular supplemental coverage plan, but it has options for cotton producers that complements traditional crop insurance by addressing shallow losses. Livestock indemnity program, we all know how big livestock obviously is in North Carolina, especially in our congressional district, but important to the whole state. The livestock indemnity program has been reauthorized to help livestock producers survive disaster events that cause livestock deaths that are in excess of normal mortality. Also, we really enjoyed working with Commissioner Troxler's office to include research and development of the poultry business interruption insurance. This program will help support poultry growers in the event their contracted integrator goes out of business. And unfortunately, we know what happens when that happens, because it has happened in just the past year. And also, as I mentioned, Dan Ward's my current chairman of our Ag Advisory Committee. We've been able to provide certainty to peanut growers, including a traditional price trigger counter-cyclical type farm safety net program as an option for producers that sets a statutory target price for peanuts, and have tied the peanut crop insurance program to the Rotterdam internationally traded price of peanuts to give peanuts a reliable price discovery mechanism to signal movements in the market and prices. Whole farm insurance will also be available for the first time, allowing diversified farms to insure their entire operations with one policy. That program will operate at zero cost to the taxpayer while still protecting producers and lowering their cost. That is something we can say to anybody who wants to dispute how important the farm programs are when we can give them that kind of answer. The Plant, Pest, and Disease Program, the Specialty Crop Block Grant, two programs that support North Carolina's production of over 80 different commodities, both receive robust funding. It'll help fuel our specialty crop industry. The EQIP program was also reauthorized to help livestock producers manage their operations in sustainable and environmentally sound ways. Conservation was a big winner under the bill and will help develop export markets to help our farmers sell their products worldwide. And I can tell you, as former chairman of the subcommittee on rural development and specialty crops, I was thrilled that our rural development title was a major victory. Now, when people talk about jobs and the economy and about not realizing how important agriculture is, remind them, as I do every chance I do, Graham, with the media, that the math is easy. 85 of North Carolina's 100 counties are classified as rural. So 85% of our state is clearly affected by what happens in the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is not only about helping our farmers and with farm products, but it's also about economic development, which means water and sewer so we can bring in industry and business. It means rural business loans. It means helping our police and sheriff's departments and our fire departments to bring down insurance rates so people know they can come to an environment where it's safe for their families and their businesses. And it means investment in community centers and town halls and those kinds of things that small town America, and in our case, small town North Carolina, doesn't have if we don't pay attention to the rural development portion of the Farm Bill. And it means helping our electric utilities and our rural telephone co-ops. And they're the ones that supply the telecom and the electrical power so we can bring in business and industry to all parts of North Carolina. So our victory in rural development is major, and that's a major selling point for all of us that live in small towns and rural areas to stand up to and say, we're helping move North Carolina forward. We're doing it in an economically sound way. Programs for beginning and young farmers. I know that many of you have been concerned about the next generation. That's in the Farm Bill. And something I can tell you as a senior member of the Armed Services Committee, and all of us being concerned about continuing to be the most military-friendly state in the whole United States, we have an opportunity to help military veterans who are looking to start agribusiness as well. So the Farm Bill covers the waterfront, and we are excited about what it includes, excited that will be signed this afternoon. I also just wanted to mention, some of you have asked about the estate tax. I am pleased to be an original co-sponsor of a bill to get rid of the estate tax. I will continue that fight. We have fought it for years. Some years we could only get the exemptions raised because we couldn't get enough support from other folks in Congress to get rid of it. But we still are pressing ahead to try to get rid of the estate tax as a whole and to see it permanently repealed. And we're working with a wide range of groups, not only from agriculture, but from business, chambers of commerce, and many other groups, a whole list of which we have to fight that. Finally, I wanted to mention what we were talking about today, the senior resolutions. I was thrilled, Graham, to see y'all call attention. And hats off to you for the great work on all of these resolutions. You talk about, as an attorney, I tell you, reading the fine print here, you've got it. But I like the fact you bolded number 4 and 5, and that's what I wanted to mention in closing about the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Many of you have been concerned about this. This is current now, what's going on now, what's happening. We've made great strides in scaling back the administration's attempt to single out tobacco. Let me tell you, last August, during the recess, after we had finished our session, had the recess period before the fall, we had numerous contacts with the administration. We had members of the administration in my office. We had to go meet them in their office. We had our office on the telephone working and emails back and forth. And finally, we were pleased that the administration agreed to drop its efforts to create an unprecedented safe harbor for tobacco health regulations. I'm also pleased we were successful in getting rid of the administration's proposal to carve out tobacco from their push for tariff eliminations. As a result of our efforts, tobacco will be treated fairly in the market access provisions. These are two major victories that we had to fight like the Dickens with the administration over, but it has paid off. Now, while these extreme proposals did not prevail, we still have other concerns that we're going to continue to work on. The administration's scaled back attempts to still single out tobacco in more discreet ways. There's a proposal that would require countries to consult with their health authorities before tobacco issues before bringing a dispute to the World Trade Organization. Current law allows them to consult, but doesn't require them to go consult with health regulators. We know there's no need to require a country to do so. Singling out tobacco like this would set a dangerous precedent and create legal uncertainty for agribusinesses who we know have relied upon the current framework for decades. So your resolutions 4 and 5, not only have we been working on these issues with tobacco in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, but we're going to continue to. We're just going to take it every step of the way. And as we have always done since back in 1995 when we first announced for this position, we're going to go to the wall with you. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate your friendship and being able to be your friend and your voice to stand up for you in Washington. And as God gives me strength and opportunity, and as I continue to have wonderful staff and wonderful friends like you to work with, we're going to continue this fight throughout the rest of this year as we continue this term in Congress. And may God bless you all for the work you do. Please know always, in Washington or back here in North Carolina, you've got a friend in Mike McIntyre. Thank you so much.